In this episode of Highlight Sundays, sensationalist headlines and mobile news. Hello and welcome back to Highlight Sundays. It is the 36th week of 2013 and here are your highlights. We start off with the scariest headline in the world, even though if you actually read the article you realize it's nowhere as scary. Anyway, here's an article from Mashable. It is entitled, Reports, NSA can break internet encryption. Now, if you are a very computer science person like I am, this will probably send chills down your spine, mainly because this headline actually implies that NSA actually found a way to somehow break the actual algorithm used to encrypt stuff. Algorithms such as SHA, that kind of stuff that basically just scrambles whatever input you get, and it's supposedly very secure. It's very hard to actually crack by brute force. So you can kind of imagine the alarm that a headline like this would cause, except that if you actually read the article, you realize that cracking in this case actually refers to other methods of actually circumventing this encryption. The article quotes examples like introducing backdoors to actually just skip that encrypted part altogether, or things like forcing companies to actually decrypt that stuff to let the NSA have access. So the algorithms that we know so well and hold so dear to us are still safe. As far as I'm aware, the NSA hasn't found an efficient way of cracking these. The actual cracks referred to in this news article does not include actually breaking the algorithm altogether. Is this a cause for concern? Well, actually still yes, because, they can still find your documents, but I guess it's less a cause of concern as compared to if they actually broke the algorithm. Why? Simply because everything secure on the internet right now actually depends on these algorithms being unbreakable. If a way is found to actually just prevent these from working correctly, online banking, passwords, none of these will be secure. So all this boils down to the fact that you only need to worry about the NSA and not anyone else, which if you think about it isn't a whole lot of consolation. But the last thing I want to do is to actually give the NSA more attention than they need, so let's move on and talk about the more fun and entertaining stuff. This article from Engadget excites me greatly and it's entitled, Acer unveils 24-inch Allin One running Android with Tegra 3 CPU. Well, yes, this is going to be a 24-inch Full HD display just dedicated to running Android. It's a touchscreen so you can interact with it like you normally do, or you can use a mouse and keyboard. Now, I'm actually going to link you to another article in the video description as well, which is a review also from Engadget of one of these 24-inch Android All-in-Ones. Now, if you ask me, this is actually a really interesting concept. I mean, as an Android device, it should fire up instantly. So if you want to very quickly just hop online and check something, or just want to very quickly have access to a computer-like interface, this is actually a good option. However, it remains that this really isn't, a full-blown replacement for a PC, which is why you might find the €429 starting price a little bit steep. However, the interesting part is that this all-in-one actually has MHL connectivity, which means it could potentially act as a monitor. Now, if you are actually able to hook up your desktop to use with that as a monitor as well, it kind of changes things a bit because now it actually becomes a viable option. Either way, I'll be interested to see how this will be fully utilized. Honestly, like the article says, I'm not very sure if this is something that needs to exist. It's just that we have our own tablets, we have our own phones, so where does this really fit in the grand scheme of things? It has the huge screen on its side, but not a whole lot else. Perhaps this could be used as a main computer in a house that doesn't require a whole lot of computing power. That is one possibility as well. In such a case, the price point actually becomes cheap as opposed to expensive. However, in any other situation, this might not be exactly worth the money. We move on once again. Our next article comes from Gizmodo. This one is entitled, The World's Thinnest Keyboard is just 0.5 millimeter thick. So you know what we're getting. This is of course meant to be a Bluetooth keyboard of some sort, which links up to a tablet. As you can imagine, this device is essentially a thin film-like thing with all the buttons actually printed on it, and basically you just type normally. Now here's the deal. if you were to actually get a physical keyboard as a companion to, a tablet, you probably want something that gives you a little bit of tactile feedback. By the looks of things, I don't imagine this to be really any huge difference from typing on your screen. The main advantages being that an on-screen keyboard will not be actually blocking the contents of your screen, plus chances are this keyboard will give you slightly bigger keys. However, the main gripe of actually typing on a touchscreen is still there. The fact that there is no tactile feedback, the fact that you can't actually feel the keys, all these are problems still present in that physical keyboard. It's an interesting concept. Currently it's a prototype, but well, I would like to see what situations this would really come in handy. Our last article for today comes from PCWorld, and it's entitled Fragging Wonderful, the Truth About Defragging Your SSD. As you know, defragmentation is a process that people recommend you do on a hard disk. The reason for that, of course, is that because stuff is stored sequentially on a hard disk, and if you actually modify an old file, it gets split into fragments along the line. Defragmentation actually speeds things up because it puts everything back together. SSDs, on the other hand, are essentially like really huge flash drives. Because of that, things aren't necessarily stored sequentially, but either way, it has a very quick read speed. What then happens is that there are doubts as to whether defragmentation is a process you should do on an SSD. According to this article from PCWorld, well, they realized that there wasn't actually a definitive answer to this question, which is why they actually got their own hands dirty to actually try this out. This is actually 2 full pages of content, so I really encourage you to actually go down and read it if you're interested in the technical details. But here, allow me to spoil the ending for you. Defragmenting an SSD isn't helpful. As you would expect, because of the way an SSD works, there really is no point in defragmentation. In fact, when you're doing that, you are constantly performing reads and writes. These all count to the maximum read and write cycle that the SSD can bear. What this means, of course, is that you are shortening its lifespan. Now, essentially what I've done here is I've given you the introduction of that article and the conclusion. There is actually a whole lot of discussion as well as, a description of the actual methods they use to test this. All these are in the middle of the article, things that I don't have time to cover with you today. So if you're interested, I do strongly encourage you to check it out. Anyway, that's all there is for today's episode of Highlight Sundays. If you have any comments, queries or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow the official Twitter account for this channel at twitter.com/0612tv. As always, I appreciate every like, favorite and subscription you give me. But until next time, you're watching 0612TV.